Hi, I'm Will from Cardboard Mint, and I'm going to be giving you my review of Destinies, as well as I will be walking you through how to play the game. I will, however, not be doing a playthrough, partially because I am using my camera for the overhead view, and an app is required to play the game. So if you wanted to see a playthrough of it some other time, let me know in the comments. And otherwise, you'll have to discover the game for yourself. And would also be quite a lot of spoilers as well. And I'll talk about that a little bit in my review. So let's head down and I will teach you how to play. So here I have the first session or mission of Destiny set up. And really, there's not a lot you will have to do ahead of playing the game because the app will walk you through it. So the first thing I would recommend is getting the app installed on a device, preferably something that you can either pass around the table if you're playing multiplayer, or something that you can put up on a screen that so that everybody can see. I also would recommend, if you're playing with more than one player, that you read out the story, and I'll explain a little bit more of that in my review. The map here will be dictated to you by the app itself. And really all you have to do to set up at the start of the game is get some tokens ready, get the cards out. Everybody will have 2 of these white dice and 3 purple ones, and then choose your adventure in the app. The app will tell you which character cards to choose. Each of these character cards will have different things that you can scan using the app, different QR codes, that will lead you in different directions. And you'll see every item, every card will have a QR code so that you can use the app to either enter in certain information or check things. Or in the case of the character card, there is, which I won't let you read it, but there is 2 different paths to victory that you can pursue. And depending on which one you are choosing to go towards, you can ask, for example, an NPC character, if you scan the light side, they'll give you clues on the light side, the dark side, and so on. The app will also instruct you to find the miniature required for the character. There is a lot of little minis in this game, and they're fairly easily recognizable once you get kind of familiar with them. And you will see some of the same ones appearing. There's some generic ones for the blacksmith that you'll see for every blacksmith throughout the whole campaign. Whether it's the same actual character or not, there will be some repeats. But generally there is a lot of minis because they are all unique and for each individual character. The setup will also tell you to pick out some starting items. These ones are just ones I randomly selected without spoiling anything, so I can explain how they work. As well as the app will tell you where to place these little tokens, and I'll explain what they are for once I teach how to resolve encounters. You'll need to have ready the coins, the experience tokens of the crowns, the points of interest markers, and sets of 2 of these little markers that are used to indicate shops. Once you continue with the character selection, the app will then tell you which map cards to place out, as well as to place things like other miniatures demarking different locations to visit, or just the generic points of interest tokens showing that there's something there for you to go look at as well. There's also cards usually surrounding where you were looking that are face down, so you don't know what is there yet, and progressing in the app will allow you to explore those. Once you're all set and you're ready to begin, the app will walk you through player changes. Usually you will rotate the same character order each time. And at the start of your turn, you will always be refreshing 1 purple die into your pool of active dice. The most you can have refreshed is all 3, and you will be probably needing those in some of those skill tests. So I'm just going to move my character card over here, And what you'll be doing is you'll be looking at the app and you'll be choosing something to go explore. It could be selecting a character or point of interest or a new map tile, in which case the app will instruct you what to do when you reveal it and if there should be any new characters or new points of interest added to that tile, as well as perhaps some events or other map tiles to explore the neighboring regions may be pulled out. When you go visit a point of interest, usually they will give you a variety of different things you can do with that interest. You could communicate with or converse with different residents of that location, or there may be recurring event items which will be shown with a triple dot and arrows around it saying that you can visit that multiple times per campaign. Sometimes there will be something with a golden symbol on it that will usually reference your character goals, so you can generally scan those to get kind of a hint of where to go. And occasionally there will also be things that will have a blue, green, or red symbol that matches your player board, showing that there is probably a skill test headed in that direction that you will be able to take. And occasionally also there's a little QR code picture that sometimes will require a certain item. If you see both, usually you'll have a choice between either using an item to bypass that skill test, or if you have enough successes, you will be able to pass the skill test as well. Now, when it's time to ask you for a skill test, it will tell you what color of skill you are using, blue, green, or red. You will always be rolling your white dice, and you can choose how many of the purple dice you have used that are currently fresh and active in your pool. So say I am doing a skill test of blue, and I want to use the basic dice and one purple, and I'll roll those. And typical will dice rolls, I rolled a 3, which is a complete failure. All right, let's try another test. I'm gonna throw an extra one here. Let's test red this time. Maybe I'm trying to fight a monster or something. And roll. And here, this is a good example here. If you ever see any symbols that have this little circle on it, that counts as one success. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to count up how many successes you have and then enter that into the app, and then the app will tell you whether you've passed it or not. Then I have a total value of 6. I will look on my little chart here of wooden tokens, and I will go up to the 6, which is the number I just rolled, and see how many of these little wooden tokens are leading up to and on that position. In this case, it is just 1. And each one of those wooden tokens that is on or before that number counts as 1 success. So far I have 1 success from the automatic success die, 1 success from here, so I could enter that in, or I could use an item. Many items will have the discard ability, meaning that they are a one-time use, and sometimes they can be used to mitigate the dice rolls or to affect the skills. For example, the hatchet allows me to discard this hatchet from the game, so it'll be not seen again this round, although there may be some duplicates within the item deck. And it will give me 2 successes in red tests. So I could, if I want, force this to a full 4 successes, which is quite a lot. Generally, I find you probably only need 2 or 3 successes, maybe even occasionally 1, depending on the story. Often you will fail whatever challenges you're doing, and generally they will reward you with one of these skill tokens. These skill tokens can be used to advance your character skills, but they must be used before a skill check die roll has been done. And what they do is when you use one of these tokens or return it to the supply, you can advance up to 2 spots different wooden tokens. You can divide them up however you wish. Maybe I will advance my green up by 1 and then my red up by another 1. So that would be an example of what you can spend, and then you do your die roll. You can also kind of save these up and use them towards something that you really want to pass. There are also items that are always. Have a golden banner on them. They are generally more expensive and harder to find, and also typically tied to quests as well. And they are always in effect. You do not have to lose them in order to get their effect. But I will warn you now, there are various events that will make you give them up. And that is a necessary part of the game to progress as well. Next, we have the matching double tokens. There's a whole bunch of these that are doubled up. These are for either anytime you have more than 5 items and you have to drop one, you can put a reminder on that map tile and then put the item card somewhere near the board, showing that's where the item was dropped, and the other player can pick it up by visiting anywhere on that map tile. Or this can be done for a shop. Maybe there's that blacksmith I talked about, and he will have, when you visit him, a selection of cards pulled from the deck, referenced by the number, and you can use the marker to show where he is, and then put the marker next to the cards that he is selling to demark his markets. Occasionally you will have a few of these markets kind of going at once, so make sure you leave space for that. You will continue through the game, exploring, meeting your various objective goals. There's usually also a kind of a hint at the bottom on where to go after your goals are completed, and it will tell you on the app that it's time to finish or complete your destiny. When that is time, you go to the location and you choose to start your final conflict or your final destiny. And there would normally be a series of rounds and tests, and sometimes requiring items in order to pass your final destiny. Once you embark on it, though, there is no turning back. But generally, with a little bit of dice rolling, a little bit of luck, and some items that you probably have, you will eventually get your way to the end. And that's how you win the game, is the first player to complete their destiny. And that pretty much covers it. I will not spoil any of the things that happen in the game or the story, but I will kind of generally touch base on some parts of the game in my review. And that is how you play Destinies. There is 5 different missions in the game that come in the base box, as well as there are 2 different expansions that add more missions. And well, the missions are loosely tied together in story. You really have no serious impact upon each other, and it doesn't really matter who plays which character, because the characters will be different for each of the different missions. Now, as far as my review goes to the game, I do have to say that I was let down a little bit. There was a lot of hype leading up to this game from a lot of other content creators that I greatly respect. And while I don't think they were wrong in the fact that this is a unique and well-crafted storytelling experience, I do think that there is not really much of a game here. And not to say that this is a bad review, because I did thoroughly enjoy my playthrough, and I did play this in a group of 2 others through all 5 of the campaign missions, and had a great time enjoying the story. But you do not really have much control over your character's progression or what happens in the game world. It is all just incredibly random, and the fact that the game is competitive really works against the nature of the storytelling. And I will say the story is very well crafted. It is a dark medieval tale with angels and demons and druids and magic and knights and fighting and monsters. And while the story is just fantastic to play out, I think if you go into it as a storytelling experience, and we read the stories out loud. So when it was our turn to hold the device, there's nothing else for other players to do. You can't plan. There's almost no guidance. The clues can sometimes be entirely useless and end up wasting your turn. So they're not helpful there for leading you in the right direction. And then our players just sit and watch. And there's nothing to watch if you're holding the phone pointing towards you. So reading the story out loud does help keep the other players engaged. And as long as you kind of go into it thinking, hey, we're going to experience this adventure following 3 different characters, but whether you would personally win or not doesn't really amount to anything. So you're just there along for the ride. It is a theme park roller coaster of a ride where some players can get incredibly lucky and just happen upon the things they need to complete the game without any real sense. And they could just be racing towards the victory condition, loaded with amazing items. Or you could just be unlucky and not finding what you need and have terrible items and low amounts of experience and an unfulfilled experience. And this happened every single mission we played. There was always at least one player who was just so far behind, and at least one player who was like showered in items and gifts that they didn't need, they just stumbled upon. And that's my real biggest critique to the game is there is no real agency in your character or in your part in controlling the story. The game basically plays itself. You are just bouncing from landmark to landmark, triggering events, whether you knew they were going to happen or not, and just experiencing things. You are just along for the ride. And as long as you know that that's what you're in for going into the experience, then it's great. Like I heartily recommend this as a story and an exploration based board game. But the fact that they marketed it as a competitive character building experience is just untrue. There's no way to effectively be competitive. The choices in terms of what items to use or what skills to upgrade or things like that were always completely obvious, and usually you wanted to just kind of level up evenly all your skills. So there was no benefit to specialize because you never knew when you were going to run into a strength test or an intelligence test or a dexterity test. Any character could have ran into any of them, or all of them, and so you have to kind of level it up. There was, other than the characters having different stories and needing different things, there was really nothing driving you personally to invest in the story, aside from just experiencing the story. So take that what you will. If you think your group would be into that sort of thing, great. But don't go to it looking for a game where you will actually have a competitive experience. Now, as far as the storytelling goes, again, it was just fantastic. The component quality is really great with the dice and the boards. The cards and bits and everything were great. The minis, while incredibly small, are nicely detailed, and you can tell them apart. Maybe not from a distance, but the app does kind of help you label them. Coins and tokens and stuff are all nice, thick pieces. It is a visually beautiful game with good graphic design, great art, and really, I think there's enough content for the bang for your buck. I think there's, even if you just play through each mission once, I think there is still a good experience to be had here. But once you're done playing it through, I don't think you're going to come back. If you have a decent memory for plot development and story, you'll know exactly what to do next time you play. And That is part of the problem where you cannot replay a mission with someone who has not experienced it before. If you go into it knowing a little bit about what you're supposed to do in order to advance your character or the characters in the story, but you're playing with a player who is brand new to the game, you have such a monumental advantage over them that you can pretty much just race to the ending. And usually the options were pretty obvious once you've like not ahead of time, but remembering, oh, I need this item. I know where to get the item because, my friends played that character last time, and this is where he got. It's just a little bit too easy to remember where things go and how things work. And that gives way too much of an advantage, as well as far less incentive to play the game again if you've already experienced the story. So it is a tough recommend, but I mean, the game personally is going to be leaving my collection because, again, I will probably never replay it. However, I am looking forward to playing the expansions with friends and seeing where those stories lead. I also will mention one quick thing about the fact that this is definitely an app-based game. You cannot play it without the app. And this is an issue as well with the nature of app-based board gaming, but even more so this game. A lot of games will have like an alternative method of playing it without the app. This one does not. You need to have the app pre-downloaded with the scenarios downloaded, or at least a good internet connection. But it will fall to the same problems that any app-based game will, where it is largely based on the future success of the company that owns the app and of the ecosystem of the App Store. And I have seen before games that were app-based games or games that are on an app that disappeared. And I mean many games have left, the Apple App Store either because the developer went out of business and didn't keep paying to keep the app up on the store, or maybe the app was removed because there was a new operating system came out and the app was no longer compatible with the new system. And I fear that while the Destinies works great now, is it still going to work in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? You may end up with a box of cool tokens and things and no way to play the game. So, be cautious about that. And it would be nice if they had some sort of an offline method, maybe even on their website, a PDF file or something you could have downloaded that would have handled everything. But as it is, it is very much a consumable game, so keep that in mind. Anyways, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about app-based games? I know some people love them. I am cautiously optimistic about them. I think there's lots of opportunities for apps and games. But at the end of the day, I'd rather play the board game here at the table, not on a device in front of my face. I don't play board games to look at screens. I play, for many different reasons, but not that. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and have fun and play more games.